Hello, I want to start this off just by saying that I tried to make this review as spoiler-free as I could, but there might be some things that I mention that might hint at or suggest some things that might be spoilers, so I just wanted to say that. One of the first video games I ever played in my life was Super Mario Galaxy. This game is even older than I am, and it's turning 20 next year, which is kind of crazy to think about. Its magical atmosphere, incredible level design, and memorable soundtrack create a game that has never really been able to escape my mind. Back then, I thought that this game was the coolest thing ever, and I still do. In 2023, Mario jumped onto the big screen with the first animated Super Mario Bros. Movie, which I absolutely loved. I loved it so much that I cried when I was leaving the theatre, and immediately recorded an unscripted YouTube video sharing all of my unorganized thoughts about the movie. It's not a very good video, but it's kind of sweet to look back on. It was just me being really happy and just telling people to watch the movie. But the absolute spectacle of seeing Mario on the big screen was just magical. So I'd wait in anticipation for the sequel that they announced, hoping that it'd feel just as magical and joyous as the first film was. But many people online were questioning just what this Mario movie sequel could adapt, with many guessing that it would adapt the beloved 2D classic Super Mario World, especially after Yoshi was hinted at in the post-credits scene of the first movie. But when they panned up the camera to the sky in this movie's very first trailer and revealed the title card, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, alongside a triumphant rendition of the Galaxy main theme, I think I practically fell out of my chair. I wish I was recording when that happened. So now that the movie is actually out, and having seen it on opening night, does it live up to the massively hyped Galaxy title that it carries? Or is it just a corporate advertisement for Nintendo IP, disguised as a fun little Mario movie animated by Illumination? 2023's Super Mario Bros. Movie stayed mostly stuck to the well-known storyline of the games, serving as somewhat of a retelling of the classic Mario Bros. Story. Some twists here and there. It was different enough from the games to be unique and enjoyable in a theatrical setting, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of missed potential. So when the Mario Galaxy movie shot us out of the Mushroom Kingdom, literally, and into the vast expanse of the universe, it really felt like the possibilities were endless. It allowed this movie to try new things without being bound to the story of the games. Suddenly, there are all sorts of galaxies that they could explore. The Super Mario Galaxy movie looks at the original Galaxy titles and says, yeah, we'll take some plot points from this here and there, but then it goes, well, why don't we just throw this random reference into it? Why don't we do this instead and create something unique that makes the Galaxy movie stand out from both its predecessor and its source material, the original games? For example, like in the original Super Mario Galaxy, Bowser's big spaceship cuts a circle around Princess Peach's castle and lifts it up into space. A very cool scene that I'm very glad is in the movie. However, this time Mario isn't flung into space by Kamek, and Peach isn't even in the castle or the Mushroom Kingdom at all, completely oblivious to her castle not being alive anymore. As Luigi himself said, the castle kinda died. There's a handful of moments where Galaxy fans will see things that they're very familiar with from the original game's story. There were moments where I assumed how the story would go based on the original game's story. I'll avoid names to keep this as spoiler-free as I can. But there was one point where I thought surely after this cool battle scene happens, they'll wake up on that galaxy. You know, one of the first places they go in the game, not going to say a name, only for them to end up somewhere else completely. Then I was completely shocked later in the movie upon discovering that the very galaxy I was hoping to see had been turned into a massive airport for travel across the cosmos. Very different from the games. Like, we went from a small planet with a house on it, um, into an entire space airport. I mean, okay, every single environment in this movie looks new. Even iconic locations like the Comet Observatory, which has a refreshed and distinct look that makes it look more like a proper spaceship, while still maintaining the style of the original design. I saw many critics saying that the story wasn't great. Yeah, I get it. I was personally gripped in the story throughout its 98-minute runtime, but I think that's because I've been a fan of the Mario franchise for practically my whole life. I've spent hours experiencing these games, characters and worlds, so to see them adapted to a movie that takes this world and does something cool with it makes me feel very happy. I found this movie's story interesting because it was about something I cared deeply about. Mario. Maybe trying to get people who don't vibe with Mario to watch this movie is the same as trying to make a 3-year-old watch a 4-hour documentary on World War II. They're just not part of the target audience, like, at all. But that does say something about the story of this movie. I feel like a lot of my enjoyment from the story came from it just being a Mario story. If you take the Mario world out of this movie's story, it begins to sound a whole lot less interesting. I guess you can't take the Mario out of the Mario Galaxy movie, then you just be left with the Galaxy movie. While I think anyone of any age range could enjoy this film, it's still marketed like a family film and targeted towards that audience. As a result, I went into this film expecting quite a lot of jokes. The jokes in the first Mario movie were sometimes a bit goofy, but in a good way. Characters like Lumily or Bowser's iconic Peach's musical number ultimately added to the movie and made it feel more fun. I was concerned that the first film would lean too much into humor, and even after that got a pretty good balance of the seriousness and humor, I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous again going into this one. What I didn't expect is for this movie to actually take a bit more of a serious route. It gets serious when it needs to get serious, and any jokes that are included actually fit the situation and didn't really detract from the movie or the plot. The jokes fit really naturally into the situation that the characters were in and got a laugh out of me and a few other people in the theatre. But they aren't overdone. While this movie sees some familiar faces returning from the first, there are some newcomers, notably Rosalina. This movie introduces Rosalina to the Mario movie universe for the very first time as the mother of the Lumas, before throwing her straight into an action scene against Megaleg, a boss from the original Galaxy game. This scene was shown off in one of the promotional trailers for the movie before its release, so if you've seen those, you might know what I'm talking about. Rosalina conjures up these 3 stars, disperses them outwards, surrounds the legs of the Megaleg, and then explodes the stars and sends it right to the ground with a big explosion. The most important part was that she looked cool while doing it. Like, the animation was very good, and in general, the animation and the visuals in this film were just really, really good. Everything looked amazing, eye-catching, and just nice to look at. One of the reasons I want to watch this movie again is just because I want to see what's in the background. I want to really look at the environments that they created for this movie, because I think they are really well made. While Rosalina does feel very significant to the plot, she doesn't actually have a large amount of time on screen. The time she does have is incredible and well used, like the Megaleg fight scene, but I'm left just wanting a bit more. Rosalina is such an interesting character that could have been taken in so many different directions. She was given a backstory in the original Galaxy games, but hasn't really seen too much character development since then. This movie did take her character and do something new, and while that did result in some of her original backstory from the games being a bit ignored or overwritten, it did give her a backstory that was just as interesting. Although, I feel like her original backstory could still fit into the new one made for the movie, which makes the new additions to her story feel not too out of place, although I do wish that they acknowledged the original story for Rosalina a bit more, but I can see why they would want to take her story in a different direction for the movie. And I honestly don't mind if they change some details about a character's backstory if they feel like it'll fit the movie better. As teased towards the end of the first film, Yoshi also makes an appearance in this movie as Mario and Luigi's sidekick across the cosmos. And while his inclusion is very much welcome, he does just feel like a sidekick. He lended a hand in a couple of fight scenes, but other than that, he didn't really feel like a proper character. His inclusion ended up feeling more like an attempt to get people more familiar with the character before the new Yoshi game comes out in May. And that's because I feel like Yoshi didn't really have a strong personality. That's not to say I don't think he has a strong personality overall, as Yoshi is actually quite expressive in the games. I just feel like his personality didn't quite transfer over to the movie. Sometimes he'll play into a joke or make a funny facial expression, but other than that, they didn't really show a lot of Yoshi's personality. They did a couple of gags where he would eat things, and there was one Yoshi's Island reference where Mario and Luigi turn into babies, but honestly, he didn't really feel important to the plot at all. Hi, me from the future here. Just a quick thing I wanted to add. I think that one major reason for this wasn't a problem with Yoshi himself, but rather a problem with the overall pacing of the film. The story moves forward so fast that it left very little time to get into character development, which may be why I felt like Yoshi had little personality in this movie, because the movie doesn't really give Yoshi time to show the audience who he is. He does have some moments where he gets to shine, but otherwise he just serves as a generic sidekick character. Looking back, I feel like saying that Yoshi had no personality in this movie was a bit too harsh. There are some small moments where his personality does get to shine. Rather, I just wish we had more of those character moments in the movie. So maybe rather than saying that Yoshi had little personality, maybe there just wasn't enough space for his character to breathe as a result of the movie constantly moving forward at the speed of light. I love all the Mario characters that are included this time around. This movie could sprout a new generation of Yoshi fans and really push him out there, which is great. Similarly to Rosalina or even a certain cameo character that I'll get into in just a second. However, some of these attempts to bring in these new characters are more successful than others, and I really feel like Yoshi's inclusion was a bit underutilized. He's so insignificant to the movie's plot, to the point where I'm questioning why include him at all. But it is still really nice to see Yoshi make an appearance here. Even Fox McCloud, a cameo character from another gaming franchise unrelated to Mario, had a much more natural inclusion in this movie than Yoshi did. I've barely played Star Fox, but I instantly fell in love with the portrayals of his character. He has a strong personality, bounces off the personalities of the rest of the cast quite well, and fits in naturally, all while making major contributions to the overall plot. After I watched this movie, you could convince me that Fox is a Mario character and always has been, and I think I'd believe you. He was probably my favourite new character appearance alongside Rosalina. Is Fox and Yoshi's inclusions in this film an attempt to hype up these franchises so more people will buy any future games? That's entirely possible, but at least Fox left an impression, while I was left wondering if the Galaxy movie's Yoshi was even the same Yoshi I knew from the games. This movie ran for 98 minutes, 6 minutes longer than the first film, and it's pretty jam-packed. There's a lot more going on here compared to the first movie, and while that makes it a whole lot more interesting, it is a lot to take in. And that does lead to some pacing issues. I wish the film spent more time on certain plot points than others. Rosalina and Peach has some incredible new backstory that is so cool that it is very hard to stop myself from talking about it here without going into spoilers. While this new information is very intriguing and very cool, the movie had to move on so fast that it didn't really get the time to acknowledge the weight of this new plot information. But yeah, Bowser's evil plan is stopped, and then maybe a minute or two later, the credits are rolling. The first movie kind of felt the same, but at least it had a montage showing Mario and Luigi starting their new lives in the Mushroom Kingdom, which kind of served as a satisfying conclusion. But the Galaxy movie didn't really have that sort of equivalent. There was no real satisfying, look, here's what the characters are doing now, kind of thing. Like, at the end of the Galaxy movie, after what had just happened, I feel like it would have only felt natural for the characters to catch up and talk with one another, even just briefly, especially two characters in particular who had just been reunited after many years and saved the galaxy with their power just moments before. But no, rebuilding the castle is more important apparently. It's such a shame because I really want to see these two characters interact now, and it left the ending of Galaxy feel much less satisfying than the first movie. Not because the ending was disappointing necessarily, but rather because it feels like it ended earlier than it should have, like stopping a book 10 pages before the end. We've seen the bulk of the story, but that satisfying conclusion is missing. I feel like the movie was moving so fast that it just didn't have time to fully flesh out these character developments or have these characters interact, and it made what could have been a great emotional pull of the story. It just didn't really make it feel as significant. Two siblings being reunited after a very, very, very long time should be an emotional moment. But no, it feels like this isn't acknowledged as an emotional moment, and the movie just moves on because it has to get to the credits, because it has to end, because it has to be done in a certain time. It's just a shame, and I wish we could have seen those kind of interactions maybe towards the end, or even throughout the movie. I wish there were just more chances for characters to interact. The Super Mario Galaxy movie respects its source material, using it as a launch star to tell a story new and unique to the Mario universe. The movie knows its audience and is bound to leave them with a smile on their face from the many references, both well-known and obscure, from the Mario universe. As an adaptation of the Mario universe, the Super Mario Galaxy movie delivers a galactic bundle of both joy and wonder, and serves as a beautiful interpretation of the world fans know and love. However, if you were to take Mario out of the equation, the story itself is quite bland, raising the question of if you have to be a Mario fan to enjoy this movie. The Super Mario Galaxy movie was a joyful experience from start to end, dropping a plot detail towards the end that was so big that I'm left questioning what the Mario universe really is. However, its galactic ambitions pack the movie tight with more than it can handle, resulting in pacing issues, short screen time for certain characters, and a less than satisfying conclusion that left me wishing for more from what was otherwise a very enjoyable experience. Hey, I just wanted to do a quick outro. This was kind of the first review that I kind of wrote. I wrote a review this time around. I wrote a script, and I did some improv. I did a little bit of, like, unplanned, unscripted speech during that as well, but anything you want to say about the movie, make sure to leave it down below in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you have a good day.